Hello, last week I shared my first video on Carnivore in a long time, and since then I've had my gallbladder removed. I shared last week what happened physically in that video, but honestly, what stayed with me even more was what it showed me underneath it all. And today's second video is entitled When It Almost Isn't Enough, What This Has Taught Me, because this really wasn't about just food. It would be easy to keep it there and to make it about what I ate or what I didn't eat or what worked or what didn't work. But if I'm honest, that's not where the real lesson was. The real lesson was in something quieter. It was in how easy it is to slowly drift, not all at once, not, in some excuse me, big obvious way. Just a little here and a little there. Things that seem small in the moment, things that feel harmless or even justified. And before you realize it, you're no longer standing in the place that once felt so clear. You're close, but you're not really there. And that's the place that caught my attention, that almost place, because I've lived there before in a lot of my journeys of dieting and life, where where you're doing the most of what you know works, but not all of it, where you still expect your body, your life, to respond like you're fully aligned. But something feels off, and deep down, you know it. Not because someone tells you, but because there's a quiet awareness inside that says this isn't quite it. And that's the part we don't always want to face. Because remember, I said toward the end of the year, last year, after 2.5 years of being on carnivore, I lost it through the holidays. My family and I were planning special meals and functions on birthdays and stuff. And I began to taste a little here, a little there. And then Christmas dinner, I made a great big spread and I ate a little bit of everything. Why? Because it was just that moving on a little at a time. Because it's not as simple as blaming something. It's not as easy as saying, well, this just doesn't work for me. Sometimes it's that we stepped out of what was working, which is what happened to me. And we did it slowly enough that we almost don't notice. That's what this showed me. Because after that, I told you my system went crazy. I'd I'd have a little hot cocoa in my not cocoa, hot cocoa, but a little cacao in my coffee, and I found it bothered me. Or I'd eat something that I used to eat before that all of a sudden now bothered me. There's a difference between being committed and just being close to it. And when I was a vegetarian for 8 years, I was committed. When I was keto for 2 years, I was committed. When I was carnivore for going on to 3 years, I was committed until I broke the chain. And for me, this didn't stop with food. It started showing up in other places in my life as well. Places where I knew what what felt right, but I was negotiating with it, telling myself, this is fine, this is just once, it's no big deal. And maybe in that moment it wasn't. But patterns don't come from one moment, they come from what we allow over and over again. And that's where the shift started happening for me. Not in what I was eating, but what I was willing to be honest about, because this isn't about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right all the time. It's about being truthful with where you actually are. The question has stayed with me, and it's a gentle one, but it's also a revealing one, because it takes away the ability to blame something outside of ourselves and brings us back to a place of awareness. I couldn't blame my family because of the holidays. I couldn't blame the grocery stores or the recipe books. I chose to do what I did of myself. I chose to sample everything of myself. And when I did that, then I opened up an awareness to things that I maybe had enjoyed before that now I wasn't enjoying. But it broke my schedule of following carnivore because it takes away the ability to blame something outside of ourselves and brings us back to a place of awareness, not judgment, just awareness. And for me, that awareness is actually freeing because it means I don't have to chase answers out there somewhere. I can come back to what I already know. And after my gallbladder attack, having that gallbladder out, and I said, I'm going home, I'm getting back on carnivore, I'm staying on carnivore because I was on carnivore, felt the best I ever felt, and I'm going to go back to that. And even with having to try to follow, so to speak, the diet that was sent home from the hospital, I did it to my variation of carnivore. And then I would check out other ways and means of how I could add back my carnivore gradually as I was leaning into my healing. And I can come back to what I really know. So I'm not looking at this, excuse me, as a failure. I'm looking at it as a wake up in a very quiet way. A reminder that almost might feel comfortable, but it doesn't bring the results of full alignment. So I'll leave you with this, not as something heavy, just something to gently sit with you. Is there any place in your life right now where you're living in that almost space where you're not fully out and you're not fully in either? Think about it. You don't have to answer it right away. Just notice it. Because sometimes that's where the shift begins. If you didn't catch the first video, that's where I shared what happened physically. This part right here, this is what stayed with me after the operation, after I came home, after I started eating again in carnivore. And the doctors were totally amazed at how readily my body was responding and changing and healing. And even my wounds all now are totally healed, and you can barely see where those wounds were. But this is the part right here that stayed with me. And in the next video, I'll share what I'm choosing to do differently now, not perfectly, just honestly, and I'm really glad you've been with me on this carnivore journey. I'll bring you next week another version. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for coming by to Coffee Talk with me, Paula Gigi. Leave your comments below, questions below, anything you'd like to share, share it with me. If you'd like and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Do so now. And then whenever I put something new up, you'll know it. If you have friends that would be interested in this video, share it. And I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your week.